Welcome to A Changed Life. This is a podcast about choosing differently, how you think, how you relate, and how you lead yourself. Here we focus on the inner shifts that create real momentum and open up what's possible next. I want to ask you something today. Is there something that you want that you don't have yet? This isn't something that you're like casually thinking about or curious about. This is something that you actually want. A relationship that feels safe and alive, a body that feels strong and where you feel at home in your own skin, a career that reflects who you actually are, optimum health and vitality, a life that feels like yours, something that you chose, that's expansive. Most people will say yes, quietly to themselves, that there's something that they want that they don't yet have. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being content or happy and also wanting something. Most, or I should say many people, wanting that thing for a while, the people that have been working toward it or thinking about it or maybe even doing the right things to obtain it, and still it hasn't fully arrived, or it arrives and then it slips away. You have it and then it's gone, or it feels so close. And then something shifts and suddenly you're back to where you started. If that's you, I want to offer you something today that goes deeper than strategy or effort or trying, all of that. Because in my experience, the thing standing between most people and what they want isn't lack of information. It's not lack of desire. It's not even lack of taking action. It's something running underneath all of that, something subconscious, something the brain is doing quietly in the background that's working directly against what you say you want. So today, we're going to be looking at 8 of those things directly, not to overwhelm you. I know 8 might sound like a big number, but because naming them is the first step to dismantling them. So the first block is the most foundational one. And in many ways, it's the one everything else grows from. Identity. And here's what I mean. You carry an identity. I carry an identity. We all do. It's a self-concept. It's a story about who you are and what's possible for you specifically. This is not general. This is your specific self-concept. And that identity, it's not neutral, it is active. It is running in the background of every decision you make, every opportunity you notice or miss, every result you create or sabotage. So let's put it into real life. If you see yourself as someone who can never lose weight, your brain will find evidence for that everywhere. It will notice every failed attempt and overlook every small win. It'll make the extra bite feel inevitable, like you have no say in the matter. It's just what you do. And it makes the workout feel optional. Not because you're weak, but because the brain is that efficient. It organizes your reality around the identity that you're holding. So Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this living from the predictable past. You're not actually creating your future. You're creating or recreating a version of what has already happened because your identity hasn't updated to include anything different. The same is true for every area of your life. If you see yourself as someone who's bad with money, and this is a big one, you will be. If you see yourself as someone who always ends up alone, you will. If you see yourself as someone who gets so close to what they want and then they lose it, that is the story your brain will keep writing. And this is not blame. This is data. Because if the identity created the results, here's the good part. A new identity can create new results. So if your identity has created the results that you've gotten in your life, in any or all areas of your life up till this point, then a new identity, an upgraded identity, and a grown identity, an expanded identity, and the way that you see yourself, the way you think about yourself, the way that you talk about yourself, also can create new results, results that match that identity. The question to sit with here is not, what do I want? It's, who do I need to become to have it? So block number 2 is worthiness. This block is one that I see everywhere, in almost every person I work with at some level. The belief, quiet, persistent, and oftentimes unexamined, that what you want is for other people. That abundance, that kind of love, that level of success, that ease and joy, all of those things, those are available to everyone else except you. That you are somehow the exception to the possibility of a full life. And you may not say this out loud, but it is a program running in the back. This is the worthiness block. And it's sneaky because it rarely comes out like the way that I just said it. It rarely sounds like, I don't deserve good things. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds more like, I'll believe it when I see it. Or that works for some people, but not my situation, because my situation's different. Or I don't want to get my hopes up. Or the other shoe is going to drop. All of these are worthiness blocks in disguise. And here's what I want you to know. Worthiness is not something that you earn. It's not a destination you arrive at after enough work or enough healing or enough evidence that you're good enough. It is a decision. It's a choice to stop making your deservingness conditional on someone else's approval or on your own past performance. You are allowed to want what you want. You're allowed to have it, not because you have proven yourself worthy of it, but simply because you exist. That is enough. So block number 3 is negative assumptions. So this third block is the story that runs underneath everything, that the negative assumptions about what is possible that have become so familiar that they actually feel like facts. These come from everywhere, from family, from early experiences, from things people say that landed in ways that maybe they never even intended, from watching what happened to people around you and concluding that this is just the way that life works. This is just the way that it goes. Things like relationships always end badly. Success never lasts. Good things, they come with a cost. It's selfish to want too much. People like me, and oftentimes this is in the family, so it'll sound like people like us, we don't get to have that. These are not truths. They're not. They're not facts. They are inherited conclusions, and they're running your life in ways you probably don't fully see yet. So the practice here is simple, but it requires honesty. Write down every negative assumption you carry about the area of your life where you feel the most blocked. Where it came from really doesn't matter right now. Just name it. Because you cannot challenge a belief you haven't named. And once you name it, you can look at it differently and ask the question that changes everything. And it sounds like this. Is this actually true? Or is this just what I was taught to expect? So block number 4 is your environment. And this fourth block is one that gets underestimated constantly. Your environment is not neutral. It is communicating something to your nervous system every single day. And if your environment is organized around lack, around chaos, around disorder, around reminders of the hardest times of your life, around the visual and energetic evidence of scarcity, your brain is receiving that signal constantly. And this is not about having a perfect home or being perfectly organized in your life, although that is my preference. It is about asking an honest question. Does my environment reflect the life that I'm building or the life I'm trying to leave behind? Because your surroundings are either confirming your expansion or contradicting it. And the brain, which is always scanning for information about who you are and what is true about your life, is reading your environment as data. It's not judging it. It's just taking it in as data. So clean something up, clear something out, create one space that feels like the version of your life that you're moving toward, and notice what shifts. And this is literally something that you could do today. If you live in a chaotic, very overstimulated environment because there's stuff everywhere and piles and things and all of that, find one area in your house. It could be a desktop. It could be a side end table. Just one area that you clean off, that you take the things off of there that don't need to be there and intentionally put what you want there, and start with that and let that sit in your environment and see how it feels. I want to say a little bit more about this environment thing because it is so huge. I'm in the process of selling my home and I live pretty minimally, one would say. And over the course of the last 4 to 6 weeks, I have opened every drawer. I've cleaned every single thing out. There's been over 50 bags and boxes and things donated and given away. It has really blown my mind. And at first, my environment felt so empty. And now I look at it and I think it's exquisite. I feel like my home has never felt or looked better. And there's something to be said about adjusting, how we adjust to our environment, how our nervous system adjusts to our environment, and how much possibility is right at your fingertips right now. So block number 5 is giving without receiving. This 5th block is one that lives in some of the most generous, kind, caring, devoted people I've ever met. An excessively giving mindset that has no room or tolerance or capacity for receiving. So here's what that looks like. You give freely. You show up for others. You pour into the people around you. And when something comes back to you, could be a compliment, could be an act of kindness, an offer to help, some opportunity, you deflect it, you redirect it, you minimize it. That was nothing. That was no big deal. Oh, no, really, that was nothing. You don't have to do that. That's okay. You don't need to do that. No, really, I'm fine. I'm good. No, really, I would ask if I needed the help, but I don't need the help. Any of that sound familiar? That deflection oftentimes feels like humility, but it's actually a block because allowance and receiving, they go together. Energetically, those two things go together. You cannot receive what you will not allow in. And if you cannot let a compliment land, if your immediate response is to brush it away, that's the same muscle that blocks bigger things from arriving. Big things like love and abundance and support and peace and ease. All of it requires the same capacity to open and let it in. So notice how you respond the next time someone offers you something, even something small, like a compliment or a kind gesture or act of kindness. Instead of deflecting it, try something different. Just receive it. Don't make a joke about it. Don't deflect it. Don't minimize it. Just let it land and say thank you and mean it. That practice, as simple as it sounds, is training your nervous system to allow and to allow more. And allowance is the prerequisite to receiving everything else that you're asking for. So that one is a huge one. They're all big. Block number 6, specificity and living from the end. This 6th block is where we really need to dive in, because there are a lot of different schools of thoughts on this, and I want to be clear about how I see it. Some teachers in the manifestation world say, stay really vague. Don't be too specific. Let the universe surprise you. And I get that. I understand the intention behind that. The idea is not to limit what could be. But the approach that I have found to be most in alignment, and this is rooted in the work of Neville Goddard, says something very different. And I think it is way more powerful. And that is live from the end. Not toward the end, from the end. Feel into what you want as though it has already happened. Not a future possibility of something that you're hoping for, but as a memory. Something that occurred a month ago or 2 months ago, not just a minute ago. Something that you've actually adjusted to and now feels normal. Something that's already done. And your system can live with it. It's not a shock to the system anymore. This is not vague. This is the most specific thing you can do, because you're not just thinking about what you want. You're feeling the felt sense of already having it. You're letting your nervous system actually experience it as real. So I want you to think of it this way. If you think of a past event that happened, maybe you had a party for a family member, or there was a party for you, and you think about that party and as a memory, there's no argument there. There's no, well, maybe there's going to be a party. No, there was a party. There was a party, and all of these people came, and it was such a fun night, and you felt so loved and appreciated and so connected, and there was so much laughter, and it felt so warm and loving, and you're not negotiating with that memory. That memory happened. It was a felt experience that happened. This is the same philosophy. And here's why it works neurologically. The brain will argue with the future. Show it something in the future, and there can instantly become doubt, instant resistance, and a list of reasons why it won't happen, or it's going to take too long, or it's going to be too hard. But the brain doesn't argue with the past in the same way. When you feel into something as already done, already normal, already yours, you've bypassed that resistance. Your nervous system starts to accept it as real. And what the nervous system accepts as real, it starts to organize your reality around it. So this isn't coming out right. So the block here is not being too specific. The block is living toward what you want instead of from what you want. The block is hoping instead of assuming. The block is visualizing a future instead of inhabiting a present in which it has already arrived. Feel it as done. Feel it as normal. Feel it as yours. Not someday, but already. That is living from the end. And that is where things actually start to shift. And I get that it could feel tricky. And it could feel fake. So you have to work with this to be able to build the capacity to actually feel what it would feel like. I want to give you an example. I don't know if you've ever played the We Won the Lottery game, but it's a really great game and it really applies to what we're talking about right now in this block. Imagine that you win the lottery. And I'm not talking about $50,000. I'm talking about $100 million and you just won it. Feel into what that would feel like. It almost takes my breath away just saying it. And I've also played this game a lot, so my body knows this game. Who would you call? What would you do? What do you imagine? How would it feel? What would be going on in your mind? Would you go to work on Monday? Would you tell anyone? Play with that. Because if you do it enough, it actually starts to feel normal. Now, here's where action comes in. You're never going to win the lottery if you don't ever buy a ticket. You're never going to get into shape if you don't move your body. You're never going to have a really connected relationship with money or anything else if you ignore it. So there is action that is involved in all of these things. But it really comes down to what action are you taking, and is that action supporting what it is that you truly want? Or is it supporting what you're avoiding? Really big difference. So block number 7 is capacity, and you've heard me say capacity a few times already in this podcast. This 7th block is one of the most under-discussed in personal development, and in my experience, it's one of the most common reasons people get really close to what they want and then unconsciously pull back. And that is capacity. Capacity is your ability to hold what you say you want. The ability to hold it and sustain it, to not self-sabotage it the moment it starts to arrive, because some part of you doesn't believe that you can maintain it. I'm going to share a personal story with you. When I first started dating my partner, he was so caretaking, so loving, so hands-on with everything. I had no capacity for that. It felt so weird to me to have somebody, no, you sit, I'll go and get you XYZ. I'll make you a cup of coffee. I'm going to throw dinner together, and be like, what? What are we doing? And I could feel it in my body, this sort of this trapped energy of oh my God, what's going on? And yet another part of me wow, this is really awesome. This feels like love. I had to sit with that discomfort, with that nervous energy that was bubbling over to allow it to happen. And I could have sabotaged that by getting up and saying, no, and I'll do it myself, and you don't have to, and it's okay. But I sat with that discomfort and let it pass. And I made room for and built capacity for what really felt like beautiful love and caretaking, something that I was really desiring in my life. So you may relate to this in different ways, right? You lose weight and then you gain it back. You build up some savings and then you find a reason to spend it all, blow it all. You find a relationship and then you start pushing it away. Not because you don't want these things, but because your capacity hasn't expanded to match that desire yet. So think of it this way. You've been living in a studio apartment your whole life, and someone offers you a mansion. That space alone might feel completely overwhelming. It's too much. It's too big. It's unfamiliar. And the brain, which always moves toward the familiar, might find ways to get you back into that studio, even though the mansion is objectively way better. Expanding your capacity means expanding your tolerance for good things, your ability to receive abundance without immediately finding a reason that it won't last, your ability to stay in the good feeling instead of waiting for that other shoe to drop. So I see this a lot in betrayal and in couples work, because there's a lot happening in the first year to 2 years. A lot of growth, a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of learning, a lot of expansion usually on both sides, but definitely if the one that betrayed has an addiction and is in recovery and is working steps or programs, or there's been infidelity and now there's a lot of personal growth and really looking inward to discover like what that was all about. And oftentimes when a couple gets down the road a bit, the partner that was deceived, the partner that was betrayed, the partner that had all sorts of integrity abuse upon them, have a really hard time identifying, recognizing, calling out, announcing, being with, having the capacity to see the good and to see the change and to name it. It feels really scary to trust that again. And there's where, again, capacity comes in. So this is partially identity work. It's also nervous system work because your capacity is not a fixed thing. It isn't. It grows with exposure, with practice, and with the conscious decision to allow yourself to sustain what you have called in. So think about it relationally. You so want recovery and repair and to feel safe, and then you see signs of it and it's too much. It's too hard to allow that in. It feels too scary. And this is where the capacity comes in. Okay, block number 8. We made it to number 8. Fear of what you're asking for. This one is a little bit tricky and a little bit harder to sit with. The fear of actually getting what you want. And it sounds completely counterintuitive. Why would you be afraid of the thing that you're working toward? But it truly is one of the most real and most human experiences there is. And it lives in the subconscious, which means most people don't even realize or know that it's there. It sounds like, what if I get it and I'm still not happy? What if I can't handle it? What if people treat me differently? What if it changes me in ways that I can't predict? What if I get it and then I lose it? And that's worse than never even having it at all. And this one may be easier to relate to when it comes to weight loss, because I've heard this quite a lot over the years, and maybe have even felt it in some way, that when I lose the weight, when I get into shape, then it's nirvana. Everything is going to be wonderful. Whether it's like you're going to meet somebody or you're going to travel and feel free in your body and all these things, and then you lose the weight and like none of those things happen. Right? So it actually is revealing other things. It's showing you, it's giving you data about other things in your life. It's not a bad thing. These are not irrational fears. They are your nervous system trying to protect you from what's unknown. And the unknown, even when it's beautiful and even when it's wanted, triggers the same threat response as danger, because the brain cannot distinguish between a threat and an opportunity that requires you to become someone new. The way through this block is not to eliminate the fear. It's to name it, to look at it directly and ask, what specifically am I afraid of about having this? Write it down, all of it. The more specific you are, the less power it has, because fear lives in the vague, in the unnamed, in the thing you feel but won't look at. The moment you name it, the moment you bring it into light, it stops running your life from the background. And then you can make real decisions, not from fear, but from choice. So these 8 blocks, 8 places where the subconscious is working against you and against what you say you want. And here's what I want you to take from this episode. None of these blocks means something is wrong with you. Every single one of them is a learned pattern. It's a protective mechanism, something your brain developed for very good reasons at some point in your life. But you are not that version of yourself anymore. And you do not have to keep running programs that were written for a life that you're no longer even living. The work is not to force or push or to overcome. It is to see clearly, to name what is running, to update the identity, to expand the capacity, to open to receiving and live from the end of the story you actually want to be telling. And this is not wishful thinking. This is conscious expansion. And that is what a changed life is made of, conscious expansion. I'm Ilyse Craft. This is a Changed Life podcast. If one or more of these 8 blocks stopped you and made you think, share this episode. Someone in your life is running the same block and doesn't even know it yet. So do that for them. And I will see you next week in the next episode. If something in today's episode resonated with you, you'll find a link in the show notes to book a free consultation call. Or you can visit ElyseCraft.com to explore my programs and free resources. Nothing changes until you do. And when you do, everything does. This is a changed life. Not all at once, but for good.